going, wow, okay, I can see why you're upset. There's a couple people who literally made it their mission to try to tear me slash us down. And I'm saying this out loud, knowing that people out there are going to be like, you deserve it. It's like, you deserve it. You should die. You should never come back. You don't belong here.
There's definitely a lot of frustration coming out in your voice. I can hear it, because I would imagine that you haven't had much of a chance to like publicly come out and say, hey, this is how I feel, because so much of the nuance um, is lost.
Welcome back to another Pickled Unscripted. As always, I have with me the talented, the lovely Matt the Pickled Dragon, and I am Dracoya. Matt, what are
Yeah.
you doing today?
Um, my Tamdu, Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey,
Ooh, yum.
sherry cask finish and all. It's good.
Mmm.
Tasty stuff. So,
So today we have a very interesting video for you guys. A lot of people in our previous Satine Phoenix video requested some more information about her, had a lot of different opinions, and a few accusations. So we promised that we were going to address that in our comments below. And the following is us doing just that, because when we promise you guys something, we like to follow through. Isn't that right, Matt?
yeah, so she's going to address um, as much of the controversy as we were able to squeeze in the time we had, and I think it's interesting. Like her or hate her or whatever, you know, I think it's interesting to revisit after, some 3 years now, I guess, has passed and the dust has settled a little bit. We can reflect back and take a look at what happened and triage, as they say. But I hope you guys find it interesting. I remember when it all boiled over and there was a lot of gnashing of teeth and consternation. So I guess we'll just let her speak for herself and answer some questions and hope you guys learn a little something or maybe she changes minds, maybe not. We'll see.
But make sure you comment, like, subscribe, comment down below. Let us know what your thoughts are. If there's other people that you'd like us to interview, regardless and separated from this controversy, feel free to let us know down below and we'll do our best to reach out to them. Comment, like, subscribe, and for those of you in need of dice, go to dnddice.com, promo code pickled. dnddice.com, promo code pickled.
Uh, Yeah, Jacoy, I know you had some questions to kind of kick things off that kind of takes us back to the start. Um, and and then we could kind of step through it so it kind of makes a chronological sense to everybody how things went down and why they went down the way they did. But I'll let Jacoy, you had some ideas how to kick off, right?
Yeah, actually, one of the things that I wanted to start off with is tell me a little bit about the beginning. How did you and your ex meet?
Oh man,
Hmm.
do I want to talk about this type of thing? Sure. So we met online. My friend Rick, who was writing the blog for GM Tips, because like it was from Geek and Sundry, and he was writing for Nerdist, and so I would do a show, and then he'd write his own, DM tip stuff. And he was like, "Hey, I'm doing this thing." I'm like, "Great." It's like, "Yeah, you should totally be on it." I'm like, "I'm on this healing journey right now. Like it's COVID. I can't. I literally can't. I'm like working on myself 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day." And he messaged over and over. He would not take no for an answer, which is actually kind of funny, literally crossing my boundaries. But eventually I gave in and buckled because he and Alcoin messaged me and they're like, "You should totally come in and be a guest on our thing. We're so excited. Alcoin's going to game master it. And it's for this really cool thing." I was like, "You know what? I love my friends. Okay, I can't. I know that I don't have the bandwidth for 4 hours, so I'll do 2 hours." And it was for Apotheosis Studios. it was their big Kickstarter that they did for Red Opera. And so I had done my last day of like my big purge of like self-help where I like went all the way into the depths of my psyche and then like when oh I maybe went too far. And then
Hmm.
I was like, okay, well, I guess that's the end of this round of like I mean it was really intense. So I slapped on a bunch of makeup and put my wig on and threw my eyelashes on. I like looked like a clown, but you know, Zoom makes everyone look good. So I sit down and I'm waiting, and a bunch of my friends are there, and it's COVID time. So I'm like, oh my God, I miss my friends. And we're catching up, and then there's a box that's empty. And I'm like, where's this dude? Like, yeah, we're waiting for him. He's like getting some water. It's like, okay, cool, whatever. And we're catching up, and he sits down. And it was like, boom. He was so beautiful. He was the most beautiful person I'd ever seen in my life. And it was like Dreamweaver, like just everything in slow motion. And we played this game and we flirted. And I don't usually do that. Like, that's not a thing. I don't like pick up on people in the community. It's like not. Um, and yeah, that was it. Both of us love at first sight. He broke up with his girlfriend. I ended up
Oh,
coming
so he was
visiting
seeing
him
somebody
because
at the time.
yeah, yeah. Um, and I mean that's his story. But you know, I was with one of my partners in Wisconsin, and so I was driving back to LA. I went to his house, stayed for 3 days, and that was basically it. And then I moved in with him. We were engaged within a month. Like it was a whirlwind, and he was the nicest, most sweetest, just like mind blowing, mind blowing love. This
And
was
you guys
like
were married for how long?
we tried to get married, but there was an issue with my last marriage. This is my third marriage. And my second husband was so sweet and he like helped me wrap that up. But we got married legally 2022. So it was like March 2022 at Gary Con. It was the most epic wedding ever on the outside. On the inside, it was one of like the worst days of my life.
Really?
I was like reamed for like just being busy from and it was like both beautiful sometimes and horrible sometimes and like oh man there's so many memories from that where it was like the best day ever, oh my God, worst day ever. Yeah, but you know, Luke Gygax married us and he put on his wizard outfit, my friends were there, like you know, we had a photo booth and took pictures of fans and it was epic. And then he made my best friend from high school cry. Like it was, and I didn't even know about that until 2023
Really?
when she helped me leave him. Yeah. And it was like Jekyll and Hyde all the time.
Do you think that the knowledge you've obtained now, if you look back, how you could have seen some red flags and some warning signs?
I mean, hindsight is like eagle vision, right?
Always.
But the real truth is like the how I grew up and the ways in which my trauma developed from infancy to you know, college. This was the process of recognizing and healing from that. Would I change it? I literally wouldn't change anything because I love myself today. I had to go through it, and I feel horrible that there are people in his wake now, before me, after me, but hopefully with voicing my experience, it can just be one more catalyst to get someone else to see people like him and recognize what he's capable of.
There's a lot of people, a lot of men especially, who have never gone through this type of situation. So the most common question I'm sure you've gotten is, well, if it was that bad, why didn't you just leave?
Well, he was better than my dad. So there's two things. He's better than my dad. I was abused from 8 to 17. My mother didn't like me, actively would show affection to my siblings in front of me and like not get close to me. It was, you know, there's all sorts of things, all sorts of reasons growing up, not an excuse. But when you meet somebody who doesn't rape you every day, wow, they're real great. when you meet somebody who's 50% of the time absolutely dreamy, the most wonderful husband in the whole world, like, oh, wow, never saw love, never felt love in that way ever, ever before. You're like, well, maybe the bad times, it's just they're temporary, right? But then there's all the other social norms, like be the best wife, be there for your husband. You're going to go through some really rough times. Maybe this is a rough time. Maybe this is temporary. Yeah, it is temporary because it only gets worse. But there's no way you can know. And also, if you're a good person, you can't imagine doing that to somebody else. And then they tell you that you're the reason why this is all happening. Then you're like, you know what? I'm probably the reason why this is all happening. They're probably right. And that touches so lightly on like the pool of self-doubt and the pool of insecurities. And that ripple just ripples hard, real hard. And so by the time you're upside down in the back of a couch getting strangled, you're like, I deserved this. This is my fault. And
So he did become physically abusive. I'm assuming, were there any other types of abuse that you had to endure from him?
so there's an open investigation with the city of Longmont. So I would say that you can look at my Instagram, Rise No More Secrets, if you want more information. There's stories on there. But because of the open investigation, I don't know exactly what I'm allowed to say outright, but there's definitely a lot on that Instagram that apparently can be on that Instagram publicly.
Yeah, I know Matt and I have looked at that, and so we'll include the links below. So a lot of people are blaming you for some of his actions that he took, especially while you guys were together. And you had mentioned earlier that you kind of enabled him. Do you still think that you enabled him? And how did you enable him? In what way?
Yeah, so the message from Chad was here's somebody who was verbally abusive to me in a text chain, right? And that's what it was. He just said how it is. They sent, very aggressive. I'm not going to pretend, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was very aggressive messages. It was demeaning. It was, treating him like a child. And that's not okay. Did I enable it? Yes. Why did I enable it? Because I didn't want to get kicked out. I didn't want to die, which was what I felt like because that triggered my abandonment issues, right? So it's like none of this is everything you see. None of this is easy. So absolutely, I take responsibility for enabling him. Did I know I was enabling him? No. If I had known, things would be different, right? I wasn't in a space where I'm like, I'm going to enable him because I'm bad too. It was a threat against me. So if I don't do what I'm told, then I will be kicked out of my home and nobody's going to want me because I'm 40 something and there are dozens of 20-year-olds out there and I'll be left on the street with no money. I'm too old for anyone to love me, right? Like those are all real things. So
Yeah,
if I don't want to
especially
get
for
kicked
women.
out, yeah. And he's got all my stuff. He literally and my parents don't have my stuff. Like I have everything I own, right? So
Mhm.
he will like I just will be on the street. And he would, there's other threats, but like the reality is I I didn't know I was enabling him. I
And you
just was
think you
trying to
were,
survive, straight up trying to survive. And at what cost? The cost of my friends. Like that's a big cost. People are like, oh, she's canceled, she's kicked out. Like, no, I lost my friends. My friends are my family. And so the cost of it was like, if I knew the cost, I wouldn't have done it. I would have been, wow, this is a really bad situation and I'm gonna walk away. And now I have those skills. But I didn't have those skills back then. And I have talked to so many people, men and women, who've been abused by their partners that like 18 years, 10 years with these people. He and I were together before I walked out, 3 years. So it is good that people can't understand it. I don't want people to understand it. It should be bad. It shouldn't be something that people can like. intellectualize. It is bad.
When's the last time you had contact with him?
Oh, the restraining order. So I have a restraining order against him.
Because he was
Yeah.
posting pictures of the both of you as early as the beginning of last year on his
So
social media.
oh yeah.
Mhm.
So we were still seeing each other after I left. And I will just say I'm a survivor.
I like
And there are
that.
some things that, like, if when you are a survivor, there are some things that you just know that you have to do that nobody's going to understand. So he and we posted about our divorce July 2024, because that's when it went through. We actually went in and it was very friendly. Once I left him September 23, he was actually quite friendly with me. He was like, "Yep, I take accountability. That was bad. What I did was really, really bad, and I'm so sorry. Will you please come home?" Nope. Actually, no, not only, but I have a witness protection address, and you're not gonna be allowed to know where I live. And I was living in a construction house for like 3 months, far away. Like people don't. It's like here's two things, a couple things. It doesn't matter what I went through because the people out there who are upset, they're gonna be upset. So why am I sharing this with you? Because you asked. I think I don't know if I mentioned this before, but somebody was complaining that I basically kicked her out because of something that happened on a stream and it was inappropriate and I didn't feel safe and I know she didn't feel safe. So I was like, you know what? I think this is just not a good fit. And what she didn't share with everyone is that I paid her an entire season's worth of money even though I wasn't going to have her on the season. She did not share that. So it's like, what is your purpose for sharing something like this to add on to the train?
Mhm.
That's the frustration, is the trust and friendship and this like coming out of the woodwork to say she's a villain
You mentioned
when
that you had lost a lot of your friends after all of these events had taken place. It's been some time since these events have taken place. Has anyone reached out to you since, or have you attempted to repair any of these relationships?
it was so interesting because I thought, well, then there's the repair relationships. What does that mean, right? That's a loaded question. So it's like I thought I had so many friends and I'm just me, right? I'm me. I know when I'm in survival mode and when I'm not in survival mode. I know that how I interact with people and I show them love, like that's real, 100% real. My sirens, I love. Luke Gygax and the Gygax family, we were like family. One of my friends, we were so I was a special guest at Origins. This is like, my gamer life dream. And it happened, and I was. And that's when they decided to post the first day. It's like classic, right? Perfect timing. And
Mhm.
one of my best friends, who I just spent a lot of time with, he wouldn't talk to me in public. This is one of my best friends. I called him one of my pillars, one of the pillars of my life. Anybody that wanted to be my boyfriend would have to go through my pillar brothers to like, you know, because I don't always pick the right people, but my whole point is this was somebody close. And I'm walking through the convention, feeling just so alone. And I look at him like, and and that was like, that really made me realize that like maybe the people that I thought were my friends didn't think of me the same way. And a couple people reached out a little bit. Some of them were like, oh, no, she's still in that toxic relationship. And it's healthy for me to not be around while she's trying to escape that. Totally understandable. I cannot hold that against them. Right. Some people reached out and we're still friends, but a lot of people didn't. And we're not friends anymore. And also, like, I don't belong, I don't live in this anymore. I live like over here, a little bit here, but mostly over here. And that's okay. Friendships don't have to last forever. And I really had to come to peace with life doesn't always look like you want. And healing definitely does not look like you want. Right. So I basically quietly just said goodbye to a lot of friends. And the
Is
friends that I
there
have now, like, oh man, we are like so tight. We all have a good foundation. There's transparency, there's accountability, there's kindness, there's compassion, like real compassion, right? Like there's humanness to it. And it's smaller. I love my friend group. I give them a lot of attention. They're like family. And so that's like my tight group. And then everyone else kind of lives out here in the periphery. And I like that because I can be so present for my friends. Whereas before, I was literally too busy for my friends. And maybe they resented me for that. I was an avoidant too. So I'm just like running around, hopping into people's lives every 6 months. Well, like a lot of people don't like that. But the friends I have now, they understand that part of me. And there's no trying to make me be somebody that I'm not. There's full acceptance of who I am. And it's really beautiful. But I also have deeper friendships now than I've ever had in my life, which is why I couldn't change anything.
Well, that's beautiful. And that probably comes along with the healing process, right?
Yeah.
How you can't connect with other people until you've learned how to connect with yourself.
Boom. That's a mic drop. Sure it.
Is there a particular person though that you think of when you think of that period in your life that you wish you had been able to keep?
No, no, because I think that we were supposed to be in those moments together, and then afterwards, we're just not supposed to be in our current moments.
That's
I've
beautiful.
talked to a couple people thinking that, oh, well, we can just, whatever. But now I see red flags and I see toxic behavior, and I'm like, oh, and I see when people are really hard on themselves or like stuck in these loops. And I'm just like, oh, do I have the bandwidth to be around that? And so now I'm learning how to say no, thank you, which is really strange because not everyone deserves everyone's attention, right? And if I
Right.
literally can't be there the way those people want me to be, then I just have to be transparent about it.
Um,
Matt, did you have any questions?
yeah, so at what point, how long into your marriage did you start to realize, hey, I got to get out of this? Because I know, like, for a long time, you mentioned that, this is just a phase. The good part is the real deal. But at what point in those 3 years where you're like, I gotta go?
Oh yeah, no, he was screaming at me at every night on the cruise, Satine's Quest cruise, every night. And that was like uh, one of the quest masters sat me down and was like, "Do you believe everything he's saying?" And I was like, "Nope, I am stuck." And so it wasn't until I got canceled where I was like, "Oh, maybe there is an out." I was trained by my father to be the perfect wife, to be by your man's side forever. My first two husbands, I left my first husband because I was going to go be a stripper and he was such a good person. I was like, I don't want you to be in that world. So this was beautiful. My second husband, we were just two different people. And like both of those were good divorces. And I respect him and, I like to be his wing woman and I really want their lives to be happy. And it was great. But with this guy, he amplified that idea of being the perfect wife. And I wanted a family, and he was so ready to give me a family because the other guys didn't want to have kids, and I just wanted to have kids. And I'm also getting old. That was before I learned anti-aging, right? So I was like, well, I guess I only have a few years, and so I guess this is what my life looks like, and I guess this is what I deserve. And I just will try everything in my possibility to make him happy because that's my toxic trait. Right? Like I recognize that now because I don't have that anymore. I have beautiful boundaries. I love my boundaries. It's like what a beautiful cocoon to bring into friendships and relationships. But back then, nope. I had to be there. I was his wife. I made the choice. I was the one to protect him. I was the one to protect people from him. I took on a lot of unnecessary responsibility because that's what I thought I was supposed to do as a good wife. And the good wife kept coming up. You're not a good wife because of this. So, oh, I better adjust it. I better change. It's like working out, right? Like if you work out your upper body too much, you got to work out your lower body. But if you focus on that too much, you got to work out like it just, I was constantly trying to keep a teeter-totter aligned in balance. So, no, didn't think that I'd have to leave or I was going to leave until I got a taste of the cancellation and got to see him from other people's point of view. And I was like, this actually doesn't feel good. Like, this actually, I think they're right. I think this is unhealthy. Like, I can see where I guess I shouldn't be yelled at and I shouldn't be crying every day. And I shouldn't be, trying to appease somebody. Oh, my heart aches. Whoa. Like, I can feel that memory where it's like the franticness,
You
the
know, when you read
appeasing.
all of the accounts, and like I said, we went back and we reread all of the accounts that people shared. Um, More than one of them said, this gentleman was doing these terrible things, and we were having to also give Satine a shoulder to cry on, right? Um, but at the same time, like they would mention that, and then it would just go right back into, well, these two were doing these, and I definitely I encourage people to really take a thoughtful look at some of these accounts because I what we noticed was that you weren't really directly involved in a lot of what was going on, but he seemed to use you as clout. Like I remember
Mm,
reading one account where he was yelling at somebody about how big of a deal you are, and things weren't set up the way he wanted it, and you're a big deal, and you should be set up the way and I couldn't help but feel, especially after I read, there was one account where, he wanted to advise someone spiritually, and he was like, "Oh, and by the way, I'm better than you." And I'm like, this is like Jim Jones territory, like I immediately went to this idea of like a cult leader in training, like
I called it the cult of one.
yeah, it was just it was to me um almost almost like a Hollywood movie. It was like too much to believe like this is a real thing that
Yeah.
somebody actually said. And uh I I just I just knew that this was probably just the tip of the iceberg. Like,
And
there
it
was
was still better than my dad, right? So it's
that's
like
crazy.
he is just a drop in the ocean of people out there that are disturbed.
And I think and that is one unfortunate, part of those people who are vulnerable to somebody like that. And there's a lot of them. They really want to find connection somewhere. And these kinds of people, they send out this wide net. And they grab up
Oh, it's
everybody
so
they
much more
can.
strategic than that. Way more strategic. So basically, some of my best friends now, actually the major almost every one of my closest friends, minus like my high school friends, I met through him. So the magic is the sight to see intelligent, creative, successful people and to charisma them in, show them a side that he showed me a side that other people don't see, right? So this is textbook. This is what they do. And the people that I have in my life now are so brilliant. And even they were like, wait, what is happening? And one by one, they were like, actually, I don't want to be his friend, but I like you. You're great. And now we're best friends, you know? And so it's like those people with that skill that he has, they are brilliant at identifying good people who want to help people, right? And so that's the trick. The trick is that They pick good people. And they pick intelligent people because intelligent people who have trauma are really good at rationalizing, right? And they're good at self-reflection. So it's like if any of my friends give me feedback, I take it immediately. Boom. All right, well, let's talk about it. Okay, so if this is the case, like, wow, I can see where I wasn't fully me there, or I see where I was triggered and this was blending with a childlike part. And wow, thank you so much for giving me feedback because I would never have known this. Like, that's the kind of excitement my friends and I have now. We get stoked about it. But then you have someone like that who says, here's some feedback for you. And here's a little salt on it that smells like that time when you were young and this also happened. And then you're like, oh God, oh God. And then you just shrink and shrink and shrink. So that's like the two different ways that that happens. It's really just you don't expect that to happen. And it happens insidiously, slowly. Because I remember he would do these things. He would make me food. He'd make me smoothies while I was on stream. And I felt so loved and so cared for. And he was like, and he would like share his love publicly. And I was like, I'm so, especially after being with this guy who like wanted to keep us a secret for 2.5 years, like for a different thing, which was because he wanted to interact with people on a sexual level and it would deter our business. Yeah. So this other guy, not the first, right? But way more intense. So yeah, it's wily. And I'm so glad that there are people out there who have not experienced this.
You ever heard of something called the flying monkeys? It's a
Yeah, totally.
It's a slang. So
Yep.
for those who don't know, it's kind of a therapy slang term. So when somebody is being the abuser, they tend to have friends surrounding their partner or their victim. And instead of terrorizing them directly, they just send their friends and send the mutual friends who have the victim's best interest at heart. And they tend to speak through these flying monkeys.
So that's one aspect of it. So that is one way a person can be a flying monkey. I was definitely a flying monkey because you don't make the choice to be a flying monkey. You believe
No.
the person so much. And so my enabling him, that was me being a flying monkey. That's my responsibility in the situation. So I was saying, no, no, he's great. It's fine. That was another aspect. I'm sure there are other aspects of flying monkeys. They have different jobs, right? But yeah.
But I'm glad that you brought that up because a lot of people do talk about how you were the problem, not necessarily him, because you were the one being his flying monkey and voicing your opinion publicly and telling people off and coming to his defense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you think of like the one way where you look like the one example where you look back and you're like, man, I wish I had handled that differently. Like,
Yeah, two. Exactly two. There was one with Chad where I was how can I put this without being like I was put in a position where I was supposed to hold someone Chad accountable. And so I dug into what I actually was like, you know what, there was this thing with my friend where he said something to me and I thought it was not good. So because I have to do this thing that I don't want to do, I'm gonna actually bring up this other thing, right? So that was definitely me like doing the thing that he wanted me to do to like be harmful to a person, but I didn't want to, like, I didn't want to at all. And I didn't yell at him. I just kind of said it and I said it firmly. And it was hard to even put the words to come out of my mouth. And so that was one aspect where that happened. Another one where I definitely was like, I would have had the conversation with Katie and Tristan about, you know, eating food while we're on camera, like behind us, while like Tristan's like on the phone, like pacing back and forth. Like that just doesn't look professional. Or, Katie showing up hungover. Like those are real things. if I would have done it differently, I would have just had that conversation with them after the event. Okay, let's debrief on this. This is the thing. But no, I was like, if I didn't do this, then my life would have been hell. And so I had to do it at that time. I would have totally done it afterwards in a debrief because that's how I work. Like that just makes more sense, right? Was it awful? Were they bad people because they did those things? No, those were little tiny alter like okay, just don't do that. You want to say you want to be a streamer, like you should know this. Not you should have already known. You should know this, so I'm telling you this so that you know in the future. This is like classic stage stuff, right? Like,
Right.
anyways, that's my opinion. That's how I would have done that differently, but I would have said the same things to them for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we had the last interview with you, we had obviously a lot of feedback, um, and I have to say most of it was positive, and I just want to say that for the record. Uh, Whether it was through email or whatever, most of it was positive. Um, the I had, and I had people reach out to me that I hadn't heard from in a few years, be like, you know, I'm really interested in knowing more about the whole situation because I only know secondhand or, what the mob has said or whatever. But these are people who all had really good experiences with you and never experienced that side of the whole, time with your ex. But I have a bunch of questions that people ask, and I think they're legitimate questions. Let's see if
All right, hit me.
loosen up here. So the first one was one that I think a lot of people, their heart went out to this individual, and he even admitted that he doesn't know what role was played in what happened with you guys. I mean, and but it was you guys showed up and suddenly he was out. And that was a fella, and I just want to say, we're not using names. It's not too hard to figure out who we're talking about if you go back and read all these accounts and whatnot. But for our purposes, we're not using people's names, as you probably noticed. But the whole D&D in a castle fiasco. I don't know if you recall, there was an individual who was like paramount and getting everything
Yes,
set up, and then he was just out.
that was so silly. So I was like, what? What are you talking about? And then I was like, that's not a thing. That's not a thing at all. And then I talked to the company and they're like, you defended him. Like you actually tried to get him to stay. And I was like, I know. I literally stood up for him. And that's one of those things where I'm like, nope, that's not me. That's actually not me. Don't take responsibility for that. That's not real.
So you have no idea what happened with that then. I mean, he just because the way he words it was like you guys showed up and you were part of the first event, and then suddenly he was contacted and he was out. But you have no knowledge of why they made that decision.
I I do. I do. And it is not for me to share.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair enough. But you weren't involved in that, basically. It was just
No, I literally defended him. I
okay.
literally, and they were like, "You're the one that was like holding strong for him." And I was like, "I know this is one of those like, nope, that's a projection, that is an assumption. There's nope, that is a whatever coincidence or putting threads together that don't exist." Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And and again, if you read his account, he's like, I don't know if they were played a role or not, but it was they suddenly were there and I was suddenly out.
Yeah,
So,
that's
and it was like obviously it all showed up at the same time as everything else was going down. He just told
mhm.
his story then. So it just added weight to the mob, right?
And
Uh,
that was his story, right? So
mhm.
he had a story, and a story is what we create. And there was no like checking, like he didn't check the story. He just assumed that was true because he put pieces together that didn't exist. And that's why
And
when I did my apology, I was like, nope, that's not one. I had his back, totally had his back.
and your heart goes out to him too. He obviously was devastated. But people asked, so I think it was fair to bring up. Now, the the most number of questions we received revolved around the Sirens Kickstarter. And obviously, there's a lot of moving parts to that. It definitely seems like you're still working on it. When we talked to you, you said you spent a lot of time trying to push that across the finish line. But you had mentioned that you got the rights to finish the Kickstarter from those involved, but that the money that was raised for the Kickstarter is gone. So everyone is like, "What happened to
There's
the money?"
no idea. Well, actually, I do have an idea. People were paid. People were paid. I think now this is my story that I'm going to share because this is my memory of how kind of what I saw things moving around. I think that some of the money was invested into the next project because it's a company, right? So people were paid. There were salaries that were paid, other people's salaries, not just his. Like he had employees, right? Or contract. I don't know. But see, that's the other thing. It's not my company, so I don't really know the intricacies. But there was like, there was a team that ran it. So like a COO and the executive team. So those people need to get paid. The artists got paid. People got paid. There was like a whole VTT thing. Those people got paid. There's
So,
like
as far as you
sculptors,
know,
writers. Those people
none
got,
of
I
the
know
artists
those people
didn't
got
get
paid.
paid.
They all got paid. All of them. For Sirens, everyone got paid. 100% that one I know for a fact. Yeah. But then it's like, what happened to the other money? I don't know because I'm the one that has to come up with printing the book, right? Like I don't know.
And
So
yeah, and that
not my
was
account, not my company, but that's like what you were talking about. Like my name's on it. So therefore, and we're married, so therefore, no. We didn't share a bank account. Hell no. Oh my God. I can't even imagine what my life would be like if we shared a freaking bank account. I
so
was homeless afterwards. Like
yeah.
after I left, I was homeless. I had no money. I had to go to like victims advocacy. Like I did a whole thing. Did I talk about it publicly? Nope, because it's no one's business. And nobody fucking cares. They don't care. It's not part of their story and like what they want to add up. And it's just part of the like, oh, you're just trying to get points for, I don't even know what they say, but like it doesn't matter. My story is my story. My experience is my experience. The story that I know is all of Sirens got paid. There was another project. It was a really cool one, actually. The Paladin project afterwards. The company was happy because they were going to make more stuff. They made really good books.
Um, yeah, so that was I think that was the number one. I think we had a few dozen people. I got
Can
emails
I
at
share
least
more about Sirens?
asking about sirens, and I think it's because there's a lot of people on the if you go to the Kickstarter, there's a lot of people asking because of all the turmoil, is this going to get fulfilled? And I do know that every time I talk to you, you're like, well, I have to set aside time to work on sirens tonight or whatever. So do you have a plan to get this across the finish line?
Yeah, totally. So, um, basically, I'm finishing the book. The book is in like four parts, kind of five parts because the appendix. There's the player's guide, the settings, the questmaster guide, and the campaign. The campaign is 20 adventures, 10 main adventures, 10 side quests. The side quests are already written because some people like purchase that in a Kickstarter to like write it. It's awesome. Um, I I decided to release them as I finish them. So the player's guide already out. It's already out. So beautiful. Settings. Oh, it's so beautiful and rich and amazing. That's already out. The people who backed already got those two things. The thing that I'm working on now, and it's actually I just got all the edits. I'm so excited. And that should be done. The major parts of that should be done by the end of the week. What is it, Thursday? Probably beginning of next week. Because I'm going to go to the mountains tomorrow and I'm not going to
Hey,
work on it for a day. Yeah.
nice.
Thanks. Yeah, so that should be done. And then I just clean that up. I wanted to do the character sheet, but then I was like, no, this like I'm an artist, so like I have to feel good to do the thing, right?
Mhm.
And so if you can imagine every time that I tried to work on it while I was with him, or literally trying to survive and like get a job after canceling, like what rational person is going to work on something that triggers them all the time? And where someone is yelling at them every time they even go near the drive, the documents, right? So I would like set aside time and then I'd like start typing and then just like and it's like oh shit, here I go again, dysregulation, right? So once I was able to be myself, heal, yeah, of course I'm going to work on it. I now have all this newfound creativity. I am me again, but me even better than I was before. And now I have, because I don't have that people pleaser attitude, I can actually look at it and say, like, oh, God, this thing was actually not like, I'm so glad it didn't go out when it was supposed to go out because it was Swiss cheese. And I talked to Rick the other day and Rick was like, "Oh yeah, no, it was like it was full of plot holes." I'm like, "You were gonna let this go?" It's like, the whole thing was crazy, man. Like, you need way more developmental edits." So the quest master should be done soon, like within the week, and then that goes out. So that's 3 parts of the 4.5 part book that are done. And then Anthony, he's amazing. He's my editor. What a gift of a person. He was like, I'm invested in you finishing this, so let's do it. And I was like, thank you. And now I've got his eye on it too. And I'm tearing his character out. And so that means a lot of the stuff has to be rewritten, which I'm fine. So it's only really 20, I mean, that's only like 10 adventures. And I'm gutting the middle. So yeah, I'm rewriting it, not rewriting it. What am I trying to say? I'm cleaning the story up a lot,
Repurposing.
repurposing, but like taking it apart so I could put it back together better and more interesting. And with like his character had all this exposition, and I was like, why? It doesn't make sense. Like the players need agency. And now that there's only one person really writing the book now, oh man, it's so clear. Because like I literally teach this in sequential art school, like or sequential art class at the school that I teach at. It's like, oh, this is how you make a story. So now, because I've had the last, almost 3 years working at the college teaching story, what a gift this all like it's this kind of like what I was saying, like it all happened and now it gets to be finished. That one I think is going to take a lot longer. Before it's like a couple months here, a couple months there. I think that's going to take like 4 to 6 months, honestly. Like that's the way it is. So, but I'm here for it. I'm working on it. I've got a person. We have like weekly to bi-weekly meetings. The other thing that I know that people really are like ask a lot of questions about are all the merchandise. So I get this bill. Back then it was $1,600. It's probably like $2,400 now. Like, ugh. But it's the warehouse that has all the merch, and it's just there.
So
And I'm
that's
like,
all done. Like all of those,
yeah, yeah, it's there. It's literally sitting in a warehouse.
it just
I have to
needs
pay a bill. I got to
a
pay a bill.
storage bill.
Yeah, so the cool part about that is, and so I got to pay the bill and then I got to pay shipping. But there were so many people. I'm so gracious, so grateful, so humbled that came out of the woodwork and were like, yeah, I'll totally pay for shipping again. And I will pitch in and donate towards that bill. Because I'm like,
Wow.
dudes, I'm literally here. My issue is I'm one person. I still got to pay my own bills, got to find a place to live, try to like bounce my situation back because I'm still like I just landed back in Denver a month and a half ago. So I'm like, okay, I'm back in America and now I have to figure out how to live, which is like part of being a human being. So that's just part of what I'm doing. And the fact that I'm able to like get all this done is awesome. Like I'm so proud of it and it's so beautiful. And then there's this part where it's like everyone's like, just tell us where to donate money. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do a GoFundMe. That way it's all transparent. My big thing is no more secrets, no things hiding in the shadows, no like, well, kind of truth. Nope, everything's out in public that I
Well,
can
that was
believe.
the first thing you
Like
told
that's
us
the
is
other thing.
that you're an open book. You just want to
Yep.
let it all fly. And that's why, we did the video about machinations and and then we talked about doing this video, and you were just like, there's no secrets. So, you know, some of these questions obviously are tough because there are, no matter what we do or what you say or what happens, there are always going to be people who are being like, yeah, right. Like there's going to be those folks who just
Yep.
are going to be negative about what you say. But I can't imagine being in your situation and trying to like navigate those waters because I feel like you're making a good faith effort here to get people whole, make people whole, get them the
That's
stuff
what
that
it
they paid
is.
for.
I'm doing the right thing. I'm pretty good and chill. Somebody baited me and I took the bait and then I was like, "Oh, I can admit I took the bait."
Should have done
But then
that.
I reflected. I was like, "You know what though? I feel like there is unfinished business here." So I did say things because of, you know, he was totally right to be upset. Now, being rude to people is not okay, right?
Agreed.
Bullying people, not okay. But, asking questions, totally. I love it. Ask me all the questions. Just don't be a dick, right? But that's like in gaming, just like don't be a dick. It's like in life, just don't be a dick. Um, I was, I don't remember what I was talking about before that, but also don't be a dick.
Been
Sirens
there before.
making a good faith effort to make the
Oh, good
Kickstarter
faith.
whole.
So what I took from that conversation was they like to say grifter. And I'm like, I've already given back part of the book, so I'm not taking money. Like, I personally am not taking money.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I personally did not take any money for the Kickstarter. People have since then purchased like more characters in the book, and so yeah, I am taking money. I'm a person, but like this whole me doing the Kickstarter, I don't owe anybody anything. I'm doing the right thing. Those are two different things. I'm not doing it because I owe anyone. That's a shame. That's a I feel bad. Like, no, I took time and now I'm doing it right. And I'm doing the right thing. I will not be shamed. I will not. Like you can try, but there is no shame in me anymore. I'm done. I've taken responsibility. I will not. And shame is a weird one too, because that's a one up, one down, right? So like anyone tries to shame somebody, they're trying to empower themselves over. But then that's like the whole issue with what happened. So now you got people calling him out for being one up, one down, but they're doing it by being one up, one down. And that
Hmm.
is unhealthy on both sides. That is toxic on both sides.
So when do you project that you think you'll be ready to send the final product to the printer? Like, I know you're fulfilling, like, I imagine electronic copies, but when do
Yeah.
you think it's going to go to the actual printer?
Oh, when I personally am going to be in an abundance of 10,000 to $20,000.
So, well, how about this? How about this as a question? When do you think, if money were no issue, you'd be ready to go to the printer?
Oh,
Like,
so I think maybe that is partially the right question. Maybe the right question is when is it going to be done so that everyone can have a copy, and the
mhm.
copy is a PDF. And I'm hoping, I mean, here's the thing. I can hope all day long. And, I'm finding out that things are a little more harder than I thought. And some th parts are a lot easier than I thought. So I can say, oh, it's going to be done by Christmas and be totally full of crap. I can hope it's done by Christmas because I really would like to do other things with my life. Like I
Oh, for
really
sure.
don't want to do like I have two other books I want to write. So I would like to finish this. That would be great. But I'm not gonna speed into it and I'm not gonna overdo it. I took a break for it's funny because I was in Bali and I posted this thing where I was like, hey guys, this is my experience and this is like I don't have much to share with you. I didn't have much to share. I still worked on the thing, but then there was like 3 or 4 weeks where I went on a vacation with a handsome man who like swooped me up in Bali and I had my eat, pray, love. Like it was a great experience. Will not trade that in for anything. It was like literally on the back of a scooter going through the jungle and the rice fields. Like, come on, I'm gonna take a week off. right? And then I got sick, really sick, like really sick. I had like chemical burn down my throat from like all the exhaust because Bali, like the entire island went out of electricity for a
Oh,
No.
night.
wow.
And so everyone left. And that means that there's no air conditioning, no air filters. Everyone's on the streets in Canggu, which is like already a hot mess. And so I go walk down the street to get battery for my phone because there's like a generator at the grocery store. And I walked 10 minutes there, 10 minutes back, and my entire thing, I was so sick. I got an infection. Okay, there's another week, right? And then I traveled for a week, and then I celebrated my birthday. That's 4 weeks I didn't. And then, oh, there's a hate mail again, right? How dare you gloat about your life? I'm like, I was living in Bali because I can't afford to live in America, you jerks. Like, seriously, come on. Like, I can live in Bali for 1,000 to 1,500 a month. Can't even, that's not even rent out here.
Mm-mm.
So, yeah, I went across the world so that I don't have to suffer through a rough life while I'm healing.
Well, and there is something to be said for taking a step back so that when you take that step forward back into the project, it's going to be a better product. Um, but so so far, you said that they've been delivered 3/5 of the project. Is that right?
Two, two, two 4.5s.
Okay. Um, and for those, I know I took a look at the Kickstarter. For those who are looking for like regular updates on progress and stuff, is there a place that you're posting at, or
So
I,
I
I saw
was
mentioned
doing
to a
every Sunday.
Discord.
It was Discord, but like people weren't showing up, so I'm not going to waste my time. Like I
Yeah.
would rather spend that time self-help or writing. Like, come on. So people were just like, "Oh, can you just record it and send it to me?" I was like, "No, no, actually, it's not worth it. I have nothing to update except for I got through a couple more chapters. Like that's it. So I was gonna do it once every Sunday, and then I was like, well, by the time I'm done, it actually goes up on Monday. So I'm doing like every like week or two.
So just an
Like I
update
haven't,
at the Kickstarter.
yeah, yeah. It's it's not my whole world, and I'm spending all my free time doing that while building a love life, while getting my work life situated and rebuilding my career. This is like I'm learning that I don't have as much energy as I was expending before,
Mm.
and that when I write, I hold my breath. And so it is unhealthy for me to be doing these things for like 12 hours a day like I used to. Right. So it's like, what does an hour or two a day look like? That's real. That's reasonable. I have to be reasonable. I have to respect my body. I have to respect my mind because I will, if I don't care for my mental health and my physical health, I will produce bad content. And I won't do that. I won't risk my life ever again.
From
The
my
biggest thing was
experience,
death threats and people telling me to kill myself. That was the big one. I was like, nothing is worth me being sad over that.
It's
Like,
true.
there's nothing. If I need a break, I will take a break.
I know from my experience when I'm writing, um, I will push myself. Like I will sit in front of that document for 12 hours, but I'll only actually produce anything of quality for a few hours. And then the
Yeah.
rest of the time you're like fighting it. And then, my wife's like, "Hey, we should go see a movie or something." And I always felt like, "Oh, I should be writing." But you're right, like there's got to be a balance there because there is there is a finite amount of time your brain can put out some good creative content, and then it needs to recharge. And I'm really guilty of this, where I'm just like, I get when I'm working on a project, I become obsessed with it, and I don't know that that's necessarily healthy for the creative process.
It's
Uh,
not for mine. And the other thing is, it takes me even more hours to write those Kickstarter updates. It takes like 4 hours or more. And even if it barely says anything, that's time I'm doing that instead of doing the thing they want me to do anyway. And then they want to have these, comment conversations. And it's like I'm happy to comment on the comments and then like, respond. Obviously, I respect people. I respect their time. Even the people who are like, "Hey, what the F?" And it's like, "Okay, well, I will respond to you because if you're not being a total jerk to me and I don't feel attacked, yeah, I will answer you.
Yeah, and
You're human.
I
I'm a
don't think
human."
people realize how much time, and I'm not just saying this, you know, uh, to back you or anything, but I don't think people realize how much time is spent in the comment section. Um, and every Kickstarter I've ever worked on, the creatives weren't allowed to touch the update section. They were supposed to focus, and there was a separate team. I'm not joking. There was a separate
Genius.
team of people that handled the updates, and they were none of the creatives were allowed to do that.
Wow. What a
Um,
beautiful thing.
and it was like the one creator's wife and her friends would handle the updates, and I mean it was always this separation of powers, to keep the people who are writing on the creative stuff and not bogged down in the weeds. So
Yeah, I think for me, the comment section, I would say 95 to 99% of the time, I'm at peace. I can see and I can see between what people are saying, and I can kind of like, I can hear what they're really trying to say, even through the demeaning or the grifter. That's just the funniest one. I can kind of see where they're coming from, right? So when I do make a post, I'm doing it in a space where I can receive feedback, both positive and negative. And that is me making space. So the other end of that is like, I didn't repost last weekend. I didn't do an update. I was busy doing a thing. Something happened in my life where I didn't have the space to do that. So I didn't. I only want to show up when I am in a good grounded space. We're having a conversation, the three of us, and there's a lot of like wiliness in me, and then there's a groundedness sometimes, and it's in and out because I'm like partially reliving some of this. But the fact that I can like be here right now and be like, actually, I'm fine, I'm good. And also these moments, like they're evocative.
yeah, and it is stressful running a Kickstarter as a team. And I can't imagine because it feels like, I mean, you have an editor, but it feels like you are doing the thing by yourself.
So
Um,
here's the thing. The Kickstarter was great. The Kickstarter was a bunch of people coming together. We had all these like authors who had not, they weren't, we gave them a chance. They didn't have a whole, line of stuff. I specifically was like, give these people top dollar, which was at that time, people were not making 10 cents a word. So we gave them 10 cents a word. We gave them more than we budgeted for because we actually said, do not go over this word count. And they did, and then I was like, well, they did. You accepted it. So we got to pay them. Right. It was fun. It was great. There's a couple people who had bad experiences that were the writers, and they didn't like it. And then there was other things that happened behind the scenes that they really didn't like, and they were very vocal about it. But like the actual Kickstarter was rad. It was awesome. It was so fun. It was like my birthday. I had my friends, we live streamed, and it was just like one per people after the other, and it was fantastic. It was great. Even after that, it was great. Even after like the small amount of time after that, when we were planning the next book, it was great. It was the act, like the Kickstarter was the place that we all came together. And when somebody was in a bipolar episode, then things were said, right? So, but when they weren't in a bipolar episode, it was amazing. There was so much appreciation, there was camaraderie, there was family, like it was beautiful. And then things fell apart, totally reasonable. People left the thing, and there was a lot of torment and horribleness. And then I came back to it, and it's not bad. I look at it and I do it, and every chapter I'm just like, yeah, it's awesome. Like it feels good. So It's not hard. I am fitting it into my life. There's nothing miserable about this Sirens Battle of the Bards. Nothing. I'm having so much fun.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that because I always got stressed out. I was like,
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
got to get this done,
well,
and
that's the pressure, right? Like, what if you have a deadline, then there's pressure. Who's putting the pressure on you? Who made this tight deadline? Is it you? If it's you, then learning how you work best on like how can you find a more reasonable deadline for yourself where you get to live and breathe and be inspired and then put that inspiration into your work. That's amazing. Then you're not letting your family down, you're not letting your friends down, and actually get to do what you want to do for a living, right? Now, the other part is if you're a wily artist like me, who like caved into a room for 4 months making a graphic novel, and that's how you work, then that's how you work. But you got to know what is best for you because you're the only one who's making your own deadline.
that is true. That is true. I always put a lot of pressure on
The
myself.
personal responsibility, right? Like,
Right. And that's why I
and
end up
I will take responsibility. I will take responsibility. I forced the company to try to get this out sooner. And so try to get it out by that Christmas. That was me. I created an unhealthy deadline. That's my responsibility. That's me.
um well, I, a lot of my questions were actually answered along the way of our conversation. So, um, I don't know if there's anything else that you would just like to be able to say about the whole situation, Satine, that maybe we hadn't touched on that you feel like something should be said about, or if Dracoya, you have any other questions.
No, that was what I was going to ask her as well.
Yeah, I feel bad that I feel bad. I'm not bad. I feel bad that I created a space where my friends like Lila couldn't come forward about how they felt. I I feel sad. I feel sad. I don't feel bad. I feel sad because that's not the kind of friend that I thought I was. So all of this really revealed the holes in how I was approaching friendship. And now I don't have those holes. Now I know exactly like the effect that I have on my friends. Yeah.
Well said. Beautiful.
Thanks.
Well, I'm glad we had this chance to sit down. I know there were lots of questions that came in. And like I said, obviously there are people who are, the we know what you did kind of thing, but for the most part,
I
everything, all the reactions were positive. Like, I'm glad to see you out there again. And, the text messages in particular from old friends, were like, she was always very kind to me. I don't know what happened. And giving you this opportunity to kind of discuss, what happened and answer some tough questions, I think, um, it gives people a chance to see kind of the nuance and the behind the scenes of what happened. And, again, some people will never be satisfied, but
Eh.
I think, you are making the best of it, and obviously you've taken a look in at yourself, and you've said to yourself, what do I need to do to make myself a better person out of this, and grow. And I hope at the very least people see that, Um, but yeah, I'm really happy you came on again. I hope you come on again soon. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
when you are closer to being done with your Kickstarter and you need help
yeah,
promoting it, feel free to reach out and we'd love to have you back.
Thanks.
yeah,
Thanks.
we
I
can
get a
take a
lot of
look.
questions of like, or not even questions, comments, right? Messages out of the blue, multiple a day saying, "Oh, I miss you. I miss you out here. Um, I'm sad to see you're not in this in gaming. And I was like, I am. I never went anywhere. I run a monthly game. I still play. I'm like selling my stuff because I don't need a lot of stuff. Like I don't. I did just get new dice from my friend Tammy.
All
Hey,
right.
Yeah, because he was selling at the Denver Fan Expo. But like I don't need a lot. I
you don't
don't
stream your
need
monthly
to.
game, do you?
No.
I think
I
it's
have this tattoo, this Dungeons and Dragons tattoo. It's funny because I got it before I was a community manager, and the community manager looked at me and was like, "You're crazy." And I was like, "I love D&D," you know. Um, it it's always been a part of me. I've been playing D&D since I was 8. I'm 45. Nobody can take it away from me. You can't shame it away from me. You can't judge it away from me. You can't bully it away from me. It is mine. My gaming is mine. And
mhm.
who I game with is nobody's business. And when I stream again, when I play publicly again, when I run public games again, I'm gonna do it. Like I'm gonna do it because I want to do it, not because I have to, which I kind of felt like I did before, and not in a way of like it's just like it was part of who I was, you know? No, I get to just do the thing.
Yeah, that's a much healthier place to be, you know.
That.
Um, so I guess with all that said, again, we're really happy you came on. Um, Jacoy, if you have nothing else, you can take us out.
All right, guys, comment, like, subscribe, and as always, come back to have another round on us.
All right.